I'm never a fan of this like following up on something because it's the first line of the email. So that's like in the preview. They don't know what comes after following up on that regulatory email shift that I send. So that feels a little bit pressury. Hey, I haven't heard from you. I'm following up. And although it's a good follow up, you are delivering value. You're saying something that they genuinely are probably interested in. It's that following up that is a little bit naggy, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Initiating becoming a hiring machine sequence in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, it's Sam Keenly, and welcome back to Becoming a Hiring Machine. This is the show dedicated to fixing recruitment by going beyond saying what needs to change and instead teaches you how to make that change. Today, we have an amazing Tactical Tuesday episode ahead of us, but before getting into that, I want to tell you a little bit about the show. Essentially, we have shows within the show here. Some days we have interviews with industry thought leaders and others who are shaking up the space, while other days we cover trending topics. Stop by every Tuesday like today for a Tactical Tuesday episode where we go deep on how to do something that's going to help you drive better results in your day-to-day. And occasionally, you get a mic drop episode from Matt where he shares something that he's been thinking about within the recruitment space and wants you to know. Now, as a reminder, if you like the content that we share here on the show, make sure that you subscribe for more. All right, we are rounding out the end of our ABP series here. So you've done the hard work, you've honed in on the niche that you're going to pursue, you've got your ICP defined, you have your list of accounts and the contacts to go after. Now it's time to execute, but where do we get started? So for today's Tactical Tuesday, we're going to cover what the first 4 weeks of a 12-month nurture sequence should look like as you make the shift from reactive to proactive recruitment. And here to talk us through this one is one of your favorite Tactical Tuesday co-hosts, Vivien. So Vivien, welcome back.
Hello.
I love it. So today you're gonna have fun because you get to basically shred this entire playbook, so to speak, to pieces, just with your expertise and everything. So usually it's you gleaning insights, just dropping knowledge bombs left and right. And now it's I'm gonna share some stuff and I'm gonna have you react, pick it apart, say what works, what doesn't work, why do you like it, and everything else. So I think this will be a fun tactical one where it helps people understand, like, here's are some examples in practice, connect the dots and figure out how this will or won't work for you. So before we get started, anything you want to add, or should I start with the intro to it?
I'm excited. Let's dive into it.
Okay. So the ultimate output and goal here is basically, it's like, what does an account-based prospecting playbook look like as we make the shift from reactive to proactive? And so, as we say, a lot of the reactive recruitment is you're focusing on the 5% of the market that's actively hiring, they're posting, they're seeking help. But the ABP shift is, let's go after the 95% also. So you're first in mind when they do have a need. And so with this, there's two lenses that we want to look through this with. The short term, let's capture some of those 5% in market now, but let's also pan this out, not just over a 4-week period, but what does a 12-month sequence look like, where it's staying in touch with them, continuing to add value, not just like every 3 months showing up and knocking, hey, do you have any opportunities yet that you want me to help with? But building trust, establishing credibility with them. So the ultimate aim here is there's a couple different like guiding principles that come with it. So number one is add value at every touch point. Just make sure you're adding value in some form or fashion. Like this should be, I guess this kind of ties into the second one, but it's like, think of it as like a give to get ratio. You should be giving at least 80 to 95% of the time and ask 5%. And again, this is what helps establish you as like a trusted partner, not just someone who's here to try to pick up a job here or there. With the ultimate outcome of like, how do you earn a call with them? Recruiters love cold calls, but especially when they're out of the blue, like, and people are being more protective over their phones than ever, there is a lot of legwork that you can do up front, whether that's via email, LinkedIn, other mechanisms to earn that call. So when you call, it's not go leave 10 voicemails and hope that they eventually call you back, but like they're going to pick it up on the first ring because they expect it or they know who you are and how you're going to help. So with the examples we're going to get into, I use a specific industry niche, but replace any, you'll pick it up in context, like replace it with your industry, replace it with your niche, the titles, the pains, everything else. But I found that if we're able to put some specifics in here, you can translate that in your head to bring it through. So as we get into it, we're calling this is like the phase one. It's an intensive 4-week sprint where you're going to quickly establish credibility, earn your first conversation with a cold prospect, ideally. So we're going to get into it. So here comes the first week's email. So this one's an email only. And basically what we want to do here is establish credibility with valuable non-public information. So think like things that's proprietary to you, things that only you uniquely know. And it's going to help you make a strong first impression while making zero asks from them. And we say email specifically here because a call might be premature and is going to defeat the purpose of the trust that we're trying to build. So the goal, we're going to set a microdose of insight. And so here we're going to have a subject line, something short and sweet, shift in fintech hiring patterns. So here's the email. Listen through it and then let me know what you think. Hi, insert the person's name. My team tracks senior level moves in New York City fintech. We've seen something notable over the last 90 days. 3 major players, Stripe, Plaid, and Square, have quietly hired 15 plus risk professionals away from traditional banks. This suggests fintech companies are prioritizing regulatory expertise over pure tech backgrounds, which is a significant shift from the usual hiring patterns. Part of a larger transformation that we're tracking. Thought you'd want to be aware given your role. Best, Sam. What are your thoughts?
Short, sweet, to the point. It does give a little bit of value and insights. And if you are in the fintech space and you're sending that to the right hiring managers that would be working with those regulatory analysts, then that makes perfect sense. And I know the sequence is about building trust, but something that I've noticed, and we talked about this, is like a missing clear call to action. And so thought you want to be aware of this given your role is great. But if somebody actually wants to know a little bit more about it, you're not telling them directly, I would love to have a chat with you about it. Because you're not really saying, hey, I'm a recruiter and I want to work with you. You genuinely are just saying, hey, this is kind of what I'm noticing. And adding something along the lines of, if you want to chat a little bit more about this, I'd love to have a conversation with you, no pressure or something like that. I think that's going to be really helpful, mainly because when there's a missing call to action, then people are going to read this and are going to be like, so what? So it's good because you're still delivering the value, but you might potentially be missing out on people who actually want to engage, because it's not like when people are reading emails, they're so hyper focused on that. Sometimes unless you nudge them to do something, it just might completely like fly over their heads, because then they're like, okay, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. Like, what's the expectation? Because you're a stranger, you don't have a relationship with them yet. So they don't know, okay, what do I do with this information now? And the call to action doesn't even need to be, let's chat about it or anything like that, but just something to give them to do that doesn't like require much of them. So that could be, maybe you've noticed this too, or like keep an eye out for it, or have you noticed something like that? Like, and if you don't want to talk to me, that's totally fine. Mm-hmm. But just something for them to do with that bit of information. Because otherwise you're just handing them something, but they don't know what to do with it because they don't know you yet.
Yeah. I love that. And it's such a good point where it is, you want to establish trust, not make an ask, but there is a way to continue the conversation without making an ask. And that's what you're getting to with like, have you seen something similar to this? Have it be a dialogue versus, do you want to get on a call with me so I can tell you all about, like, they're going to spot that sales breath is all over it. So yeah, how you can go through that. Okay. I like it. Well, perfect. So that's feedback on number 1. All right. So moving into week number 2. So the objective here is that we want to build upon that first email, and we're going to connect the market observation to a potential business challenge they might have. So we're still going to avoid the phone to continue to build trust and demonstrate patience. And the way that we're going to tee this one up is that you're just going to reply to your week 1 email thread. You're not going to start a net new one because you want to reference that initial insight and frame it up. So this email, it's going to look like just shift in fintech hiring patterns. Hey, name. Following up on that regulatory talent shift I mentioned, we're seeing an interesting dynamic play out. The best risk professionals with fintech experience aren't actively looking. They're comfortable at traditional banks, but would consider the right fintech opportunity if approached correctly. Quick question. When you think about your top performing risk and compliance people, what backgrounds have they typically come from? Were they usually fintech natives, or have your best people come from other areas with similar skills? Best, Sam. What do you think?
I I'm never a fan of this like following up on something because it's the first line of the email, so that's like in the preview. They don't know what comes after following up on that regulatory email shift that I send. So that feels a little bit pressury. Like, hey, I haven't heard from you. I'm following up. And although it's a good follow-up, you are delivering value. You're saying something that they genuinely are probably interested in. It's that following up that is a little bit naggy, for lack of a better way of saying it, you know? And if like, you probably can just skip that and say, hi, Sam, I'm seeing an interesting dynamic play out with those regulatory hires in fintech and thought I'd share it. And then you can just move into the best risk professionals and fintech experience aren't actively looking, blah, 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 blah. But the following up on my previous email.
Yeah. Yep. I'm with
Whenever
you.
I
I'm
get
fully
that,
with you.
I'm
Yeah.
like, blech.
It's
You
so
know?
easy to type out and you think that it's helpful, like pull that thread through. But the reality, when you flip yourself to the other side, it's like, you know, what's following that. It's going to be some
Yeah.
type of pitch or some type of just like, I want to open this less because I'm seeing this. I chose not to respond the first time for whatever reason. Now do I not want to again?
Yeah, you want to make it as inviting as possible. And for some reason, there's something about following up or a quick reminder or just checking in that is a little bit naggy, that it just leaves like a weird taste in like somebody's like experience. And so many other people do this, and it's weird because when you are writing emails to somebody else, it makes sense to say that because you are expecting something from them that you haven't received yet, which is why you're saying it in that way. But from a recipient perspective, it feels like you're expecting something from me that you really shouldn't expect because I don't owe you anything. And just skipping that part because it's really just a filler word. It doesn't do anything. Plus you're replying in the thread. So it's implied that you're following up. You don't need to spell it out like that and lose that valuable email preview real estate with just following up on the previous email that I sent.
Now I know how you read in your head. Anytime you see that, I'm going to be like, okay, how did Vivien read this? Okay. All right. Good feedback. I like it. Now moving into week number 3. So this is what we call the evidence and engage touchpoint. And we are going to introduce a phone call in this week. So the way that I think about this one is that the first action is going to be an email. It's going to be followed up by a phone call over the course of this week. And so this first one is the email. I call it the show, don't tell email. And basically what you would have is the subject line would say, hey, example of the risk talent that I mentioned. So email would look like, hey, name, following up on my notes about the we're going to remove the following up. Don't worry. Following up on my notes about the regulatory talent shift in fintech, here's an anonymized profile of someone in our network who represents this trend. It's a VP of risk at JP Morgan Chase for 8 years. They led AML transformation for digital payments division, spent 2 years at Coinbase building regulatory compliance, deep expertise in traditional banking regulations and crypto, blah, blah, blah. This is the caliber of passive talent that we connect with our partners, the people who don't respond to job postings but are open to the right opportunity. I'll give you a call tomorrow to provide you a bit more context on how we access this level of talent. Best, Sam. Now, before you give some more feedback, I have a bonus that I like to include in this type of email because, again, show, don't tell. Now, let's say record a Loom or a Birdie or some type of screenshot where you can see what it is that's going on. So in this email, 2 to 3 minute video that it's going to be you talking to the camera, but behind it, think of like, as I say, Loom or something where you've got this profile more or less pulled up behind you. And so the script's going to be something similar. Hey, I know you're incredibly busy. Thought this would be faster or easier to digest than the written, but following up on, and again, cleaning up that stuff, following up on the conversations that we've been having so far, I wanted to show you what this looks like and pull up that person's profile. As you can see, this person was VP at JP Morgan Chase, leading their AML transformation, blah, blah, blah. But there's something about when you kind of see that resume, you see the bullet points, you see everything on the background that also shows like, oh, this is like a professional recruiter. This isn't someone that's just trying to like chase me over, but just again, leaning into that show, don't tell methodology of this. So yeah, curious to get your thoughts on this one as we start to go a little bit deeper into it.
I was a writing tutor in college, and so like my writing tutor side is coming out. Obviously, following up on my notes, skip that, delete that from the vocabulary, and then here's an anonymized profile of someone in our network that represents this trend. obviously it's anonymized, so it's like redundant. It's real
Mm-hmm.
estate space that you're losing. Instead, go right into like, hey, here's somebody that we've actually worked with. It's a VP of risk at JP Morgan Chase, been there for 8 years, did blah, 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 blah. The other thing that I would add to that, and it's the STAR method, which usually is actually taught to candidates when they're going to interview. It's the situation, task, action, result. The result is really what hiring managers always care about. And that's what we talk about with the job description, that you can pick up on a problem that they're trying to solve. And if you, it's a specific result that they're looking for. And if you can pitch an NPC and focus on, hey, they solved XYZ problem, which is very similar to the one that's in the job description. And they did it by doing ABC with result XYZ. It's the result that usually gets somebody's attention, because ultimately that's the solution to the problem that they're trying to hire this person for. So even though that sequence is not an NPC pitch for a specific role, if you can deliver some kind of results that might pique interest, because experience is like, congratulations, you have a college degree, but what can you actually do with it? Like, how valuable is it? And it's usually the results that are really interesting to hiring managers. So even if the result isn't exactly what they're looking for, if you present a specific result that sounds really good but might not be the actual solution to the problem that they're looking for, they might say, you know what, this sounds like a great candidate, but I'm actually looking for somebody that has had results ABC. Do you know of anyone that is very adjacent? So you can kind of like start the conversation that way. So just really including the result that particular candidate had, that's going to be really key, because that's really what hiring managers are looking for. And that's, as a hiring manager, that's what you're kind of looking for. Like, what results did you get? Like, congratulations, you have all these certificates, degrees, and whatnot. What can you do with them though? What results have you delivered? And if you can add that in there, this like, so what, that's going to make a huge difference.
I love it. Such good feedback on that one. That's a killer point to it. So thinking of it from that lens, I like it. Okay.
And even with the video, you can, especially in Loxo, if you do the candidate status report, you can edit the experience section under each job. You can edit it to have the STAR method, meaning what was the situation at that particular role, what was the task, the action that they took, and what was the result. If you can just rewrite that whole section there so that when they pause the screen, they can read through all of that. This is where then you are just delivering result after result after result. And what hiring managers are looking for are people that can deliver results. And if you can really spell it out clear as day, then you've already done more than, hate to say it, most recruiters do.
Yeah. Yep. That's so good. And then the phone call, just, it builds right off of that. If they answer, hey, it's Sam, like, it's now a good time. All the information that we've been chatting about, the conversation just naturally lends instead of like, Sam, what do you do? Why are you calling me? Blah, blah, blah. Like, you've got that foot in the door, so to speak, with the value that you've added there. So moving into week 4, the fourth and final one. So as we say, it's the 95.5. So at this point, we will start to make a little bit more of a specific ask at this point, because you have added value. You've done different things if it hasn't naturally come out already through it. So with this one, it's going to be a combination again of a phone and an email. So the email, if they're unable to reach by phone, I would start with the phone. If you have had contact with them already, if you haven't yet, do another email first and then say, again, I'll try reaching out with you over phone in the next couple of days. So this one's going to be a little bit more punchy. So with this one, I said the subject line is the talent your job postings aren't reaching. And so message in here is going to be, over the past few weeks, shared insights about regulatory talent shift and shown you the caliber of passive professionals in our network. The bottom line is the talent in that profile represents thousands of risk professionals who will never respond to a job posting. If accessing that level of passive talent is a priority, I'd love to show you how we can reach them. Is this something that your internal hiring team is struggling with right now? Best, Sam. So short, to the point. You were talking about CTAs earlier. I think it's pretty direct on that front. But yeah, curious to get your take on that, kind of the fourth of 4 emails there.
I would actually make that a text message as opposed to an email.
Ooh, okay. We'll talk about text. I want to talk about text with you in a second after that, but continue.
Mainly because when you're leaving a voicemail, it's on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
And you connect your phone and a voicemail more with a text message and with an email that isn't like a separate app. For some reason, mentally, that's like a disconnect. So then it feels like, wait, they left a voicemail. It feels very disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And so for that reason, I would actually make the text. Outside of that, this is the only time that I would use like a quick follow-up or something like that, just so, because then you're referencing something that is not in that thread. You're saying, hey, just wanted to follow up on the voicemail that I just left you. And even including, hey, the voicemail that I just left you, wanted to give you a little bit more context for that. And then what you have in there is perfect. And yeah, call to action is good.
Okay. So let's talk about briefly channels. So this is one, I'm keeping it very simple here with email and phone. Obviously, voicemail's a part of it, but there are other channels that you can use. LinkedIn DMs, text, WhatsApp, whatever it may be. I had a strong point of view on text as it relates to these first 4 weeks, but it sounds like yours is different. So curious, like, yeah, how are you thinking about text in this situation, and why you think that'll work well? Because I'm not here to say that text won't work or will work. Like, this is a perfect dialogue right here where it's just like pros, cons, like when should we or shouldn't we use a certain channel to get in touch with someone?
So basically with the email, what you're banking on is that they have it on their phone somewhere, because the voicemail is always going to be received on the phone. And so you're banking on the fact that they're getting your emails on their phone, and not everybody has work emails on their phone. Sometimes they just turn it off or what have you. So it's a really kind of like tricky one. But for some reason, if you are reaching out to somebody via a phone number and you're leaving a voicemail, it makes sense to follow up through that same channel via phone number, but just text message. It seems more cohesive. If I get an email from somebody saying, I just left you a voicemail, then I have to look through that. There's no common identifier. I have to figure out what number was it that is associated with this particular email. Whereas if you're calling and it's an unknown number and you're following it up with a text from that same phone number, you can make that connection a little bit more easily.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's the assumption that this is the personal or work cell phone of the individual, not a work line or anything. Okay. I guess, yeah, where I'm curious on, and I totally get it, it's like if you're calling them on their cell phone, what's the difference between a call and a text? But I know some people it's just like, I know that I'm going to get spammed all day because people find my number on Zoom Info, Apollo, whatever it may be in their call. But there's something about like the text that to me, I'm just like, if your number's not in there and I see that there's any hint of a pitch or an unwanted, like, again, this is sample size 1 of me personally. I'm just like, oh, stay out. Like, this is protected area. You're not allowed in here. But you bring up a great point of like, well, you're already in the phone more or less doing it a certain way. Have you seen this work well? Or are there any flags to be aware of when using this channel because of that?
I've seen it work well in the sense that there's a higher chance of actually getting feedback, because it's less committal to text back versus an email seems a little bit more like a commitment. Text is a little bit more informal, especially in the business development setting. So if I receive a voicemail and I can read through the transcript of the voicemail and then I see somebody has texted me, I'm more likely to actually respond and say, okay, I don't have time right now, but I do want to talk to you. Can you call me tomorrow? Or actually, we're solid. Please don't talk to me ever again. It's very easy and non-committal to do that via text, and it feels less of a commitment, versus email is something you have to be like, who left this voicemail? What email do I need to look for? It's disconnected. It's really hard to connect the dots between those two separate mediums because there's no connecting point, and nobody's going to go out of their way to look up a phone number, search for it in their email at the off chance that the phone number is in the signature. And then depending on the email provider, the search results are all kinds of weird. It's really difficult. You're making it really hard for whoever your prospect is to connect the dots and get back in touch with you. You want to make it as easy and as convenient as possible. If they're not interested in talking to you after a couple of weeks, make it easy for them to just opt out and say no thanks. The more no's you have, the closer you're getting to your yes. So yeah, why not?
Yeah. Okay. Good feedback. This is why I love these conversations with you. Like, there's so many different ways to get to the actual outcome we seek. So, all right. Well, Viv, this has been fun. Appreciate you as always coming and joining, your knowledge, helping to iterate, improve these different things. So thanks for joining. Yeah. And for those of you listening, I'm sure you noticed this is a little bit of a longer Tactical Tuesday than normal. We've gone over our recording time, so I'm going to cut the spiel short. See you all next week. Hope you enjoyed this one. Talk to you soon. Bye, y'all.